Hey, doing Duff here. Time for another automotive maintenance project. You are looking at my 2007 Prius, and I'm going to be replacing the front brake pads. In case you hear any odd noises in the back, no, I'm not in the middle of a gunfight. My neighbor is having their roof reshingled after Hurricane Irma roof damage, so yeah, that is the noise you'll be hearing. So anyways, I did some research on doing this job. Alright, so anyways, yeah, I've been doing some research on it as far as what's involved. I've done brakes on a bunch of different vehicles, including a number of Toyotas. I've done them on my mom's RAV4, my old 99 Tacoma, and even my old 2007 Camry Hybrid. I did front brakes on that as well. And it's not too bad, but there is one precaution that you need to pay attention to, which I should have paid attention to when I did the brakes on my Camry Hybrid, and that is the regenerative brake system and the electronic brake actuators that these hybrids have. What can happen is if you have the brakes apart and you, like, say for instance you have your key on you, or it's in the vehicle, and you approach the vehicle, there's a possibility that those electronic brake actuators will actually fire off, and what it'll do is it'll wind up extending your caliper out all the way, and you could have a major problem, from what I understand. And that's something I really wasn't aware of. So there's two ways to make sure that doesn't happen. First of all, you make sure that the keys are nowhere near the vehicle. Second, you disconnect the negative battery terminal on your battery, which I did not do before, which I am going to do now. So if you're doing this on a Prius, please be advised of those steps. Evidently, if you do fire off those electronic brake actuators, it can cause a real problem, an expensive problem. So let's avoid that. Okay, so in case you didn't know, the battery on a Prius, the normal 12-volt battery is actually back here in the trunk area on the passenger side. So the negative terminal is right here. I'm going to just remove that. Negative terminal is disconnected. Okay, under the hood, I also like to take off the brake fluid reservoir cap. Leave it on there loose, but the reason for that is to allow part of this procedure. You're going to be compressing the calipers, and removing that cap allows that pressure to release as you squeeze them. Otherwise, you're going to have a difficult time squeezing the calipers. So I always pull that off. You don't have to have it off like this. Just loose is fine. And just a quick disclaimer: I am not a mechanic of any sort. I'm a weekend warrior that just likes to do simple maintenance stuff myself. So take anything you see me say or do with that in mind. I usually get through these things, but it might not necessarily be in the best way. But all right, before jacking the car up, I'm going to break the lugs loose on either side. I'm not going to take them off. I'm just going to break them loose, because you usually want to do that before you elevate the car. I have this awesome DeWalt impact driver, 20-volt impact driver, and 19mm impact socket on here. Okay, under the car you'll see there's a couple notches near the front wheels, which is the jack point. So I'm going to jack this up with my 5-ton jack, and then put a jack stand under here as well. Okay, I have the driver's side up in the air. We're going to get the tire off. Okay, there's two 14mm bolts that you need to remove to get the caliper off, which is what the caliper cover, I guess, which is what houses the brake pads. These are not torqued very hard. I was surprised to find out that these are only torqued to 25 foot-pounds torque, so it shouldn't be very hard to get out. So the first one. All right, so you want to support this as you're removing this other screw or bolt. You don't want it to come loose and drop. So what you want to do then is slide this off, and then use something to like tie it to the shock tower so it doesn't so that it's not hanging by the brake lines, because you don't want to stress your brake line. So I'm going to just use this bungee cord and kind of just wrap it around the strut. Right, so, okay, that should be good. All right. Okay, so this car has 208,000 miles on it, and I bought it at 100, or well, Cindy bought it at 132,000 miles, so definitely should be time for some brakes. I was hearing some squealing. That's what kind of got me on the path of doing this. Just looking at some of the junk here. All right, so these just lift out. Okay. So I'm gonna lay them the way they came out. They're just kind of, they're just kind of like pushing out to the side there. I'm inspecting the disc. The disc looks good. It's not beat up or anything. First thing I want to do before I address the new pads is spray this stuff down with some brake clean. Get as much of the brake grime off. Okay, so I actually sprung for genuine Toyota pads this time. With all of my other brake work that I've done in the past, I've also always just gotten the AutoZone Duralast pads. But I decided to go the OEM route. There is a huge price difference. I can get pads from AutoZone for 30 bucks. These were like 70, so it's more than double the price. My thought process is I'm trying to hold on to this vehicle as long as possible. It's my daily commuter, so I didn't mind spending the extra money. Okay, so let's look at the pads here. I'm going to look at the difference in width. Okay, I don't know how well you can see that. They're low, but they're not as low as I thought they were going to be. Yeah, they're definitely low. It's probably about half the width of a new pad, but I thought they were going to be worse, to be honest with you. Alright, so the reason I laid them down like that, like this, that's interesting. This actually has a coating on the back that I don't really see on the other one. Well, I guess I do. I guess it's kind of worn out. But anyways, the reason that I laid these down like this was so I would make sure that I put them in a similar way. So let me practice a little bit. Alright, I got that first one in. Basically the way you do it is you want to make sure that it's kind of stick the one end in first and push up, kind of line it up in the bottom, and then just push it over. There's some metal clips here that you're actually seating the brake pads into, so just make sure that they're fully seated like that. And again, pay attention to the way that you took them off, so you put them back. The one that has the low brake pad hardware, make sure it goes on the same side as it was. Alright, so now what we need to do is compress this caliper. And the reason you need to do that is the new pads are thicker than the worn pads, obviously. So this caliper would not go over these new thicker pads as is. So we have to compress it. And I'll show you the way that I do that. Alright, so what I'm going to try to do is use the old brake pad as my buffer. And I have a C-clamp here, old-fashioned C-clamp. And basically I'm going to put the brake pad on there, the old brake pad, and then I'm going to tighten up my C-clamp in the back of the caliper housing. And I'm going to use that to push this caliper back in. And I know you're not going to be able to really see this in the camera, but it is pushing the caliper back into the body. It's almost flush. Okay. So now to take this off. You can see that you no longer have the caliper extended. So now I should be able to take this off carefully, making sure to support it the entire time. And it goes without saying that when you have the car hooked apart to this part, you want to inspect your discs, for damage or excessive wear. And I kind of knew that mine were fine because I wasn't noticing any of the problems that you normally have with a bad disc, like a pedal pulsation or pulling. That all felt fine, so I expected these to be fine, and they do look fine. So, just FYI. Okay, so we're gonna slide this on. And you'll see that it goes on nice and easy now. Get both bolts started. All right, then you want to tighten it back up again. Now, ideally, if you had my torque wrench that I have I don't think it even goes down as low as 25 because that is a very low torque setting. So I'm just going to I'm going to tighten it. Something like this, I don't think it's a huge deal. That you're right at 20. Okay. Sometimes you will have an issue that when you're tightening this inner bolt here, or this inner nut will spin. That's what's happening down below. If that happens, then you need to get a crescent wrench on that to hold it still while you tighten up the bolt. I just noticed that while I was talking that last time, nothing was really in frame. I put this bolt back in. What I was talking about was if this bolt spins and doesn't tighten up, you need to get a wrench on this inner nut right here. And it looks like 14 millimeters, not big enough. It's tough to get an angle on. Alright, so that's it. It's pretty much done. I'm going to go over to the other side and repeat the process. I'm going to put the tire on this side first, obviously. And if I have anything different going on that side, I'll let you know. Okay, just found a gotcha. On the back of the factory pads, I saw these metal clips here. These actually come off the back of the pads and are designed to be installed on the new ones. I did not realize that. So I'm going to have to take the other side apart and do this as well, but yeah, these go on the back of your new pads. Sorry about that. And there's actually two pieces. There's two pieces of metal here. So make sure you get them both. Clean them up a little bit before you put them back in. It wouldn't be one of my automotive projects if there wasn't a screw up in there. I am curious though, like if you get aftermarket brake pads, if again you have to move that metal shielding. I think usually most of the Duralast pads I've seen, they have the metal backing already on them on the replacements. So maybe this is something unique to when you're doing OEM, that you actually move those shields across, those metal shields. But regardless, I'm glad I realized that, because I'm sure it would not have been a good thing to not have those pads or those metal shields in place. So I'm basically just quickly, I'm going to take this caliper back off, put the shields on, put it back together. And time lapse. Okay, the driver's side wheels back on. Got those metal shields on, and time to put the car back on the ground. Alright, I just pushed my brake cap back on. You'll notice that the fill line is now back up at max, or the fluid level is about back up at max. It was halfway in between max and min, so you'll see what I mean about how fluid will be regained during this process. Some people make the mistake of adding fluid, which you don't want to do, because you'll wind up overfilling your reservoir. In the negative battery terminal. That wasn't hard. Alright, so now that it's back on the ground, I'm going to just hit both wheels again with the impact gun. Make sure these are good and tight. Alright, so I now have my keys on me. So the pedal should feel strange the first couple times you press it. Start it. Alright, doesn't feel too bad. So now it's time for a test drive. So basically I'm just hitting the brakes in different situations, lower speed, higher speed. And you want to, I guess they call it seating the brakes. You want to make sure that you do some significant pedal pressure to make sure that the brakes are seated. If I can pedal itself feels good. It feels firm. You don't want it to feel squishy, which would indicate that you have air in the lines. So I'm just going to do a couple miles of testing here. All right, my stops feel even. I don't feel any uneven pull on the pads. They definitely feel like they're grabbing sooner than the old ones did, which is what I would expect. And yeah, I think we're okay. All right, that test drive went well. I think we're in good shape. Can you believe that in the time that it took me to do those pads, the roofers next door are completely done putting shingles on my neighbor's roof? Look at this. They did that entire roof in that amount of time. I mean, it was like, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours, crazy. As far as the difficulty with this job, it wasn't bad. Like I said, the only gotcha was, and the frustrating thing was not realizing that those metal plates had to be moved across from the old pads to the new pads. But other than that, everything went very, very smoothly. So I'll put links below to the pads that I use, the genuine OEM pads. Yeah, maybe I'll put a link to my awesome DeWalt 20-volt impact drill. It's really nice. I used to futz around for years with an air gun and that compressor, and this 20-volt impact gun has way more power than I ever got out of the compressor. So much easier to set up as well. So, but yeah, that's it. Hopefully you found this video interesting. If so, give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, please take a second and subscribe. And if you are a subscriber but you don't get notifications, hit that bell so you get notified whenever a new video is posted. And yeah, that's it. Changing the front disc pads on a 2007 Prius complete. Until next time, Duffman out.